Of all the effects that a photographer can add to their landscape or travel photos, probably the most common one that I see is called the Orton Effect. You know it when you see it. It gives your photo this really beautiful, dreamy look. And there are no shortage of video tutorials showing you how to do that using Photoshop on your desktop. But in this video, I'm going to change things up. I'm going to show you how you can do that using Photoshop on your mobile phone. Hey everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Matiash. So not too long ago, I was visiting my family in Florida and I was at the airport getting ready to fly home. And sometimes I'll people watch if I've got nothing else to do. But in this case, I was in the mood to edit a photo, but I was too lazy. I didn't want to get my laptop and boot it up and get things going. So I had my phone, and that's the thing. You know, you've heard it 1,000 times, I'm sure, how amazing your smartphones are, how great it is that you can take these really great photos with your smartphone. And you can even do some pretty awesome editing right on your phone, even using photos that you took with your mirrorless or your DSLR camera. Now, there's no shortage of video tutorials that will show you how to use, say, Lightroom to edit a photo on your phone. And those are great. But what I wanted to do in this particular case when I was at the airport was I had a photo that I wanted to edit from a recent trip to Norway. The photo itself was already edited, but I wanted to apply the Orton effect or the Orton look to it. Now, there's no mistaking a photo that has the Orton look on it. It adds this rich, dreamy quality to a photo that you can't achieve it really using just Lightroom. It's a Photoshop process, or it's a process where it requires layers. So any app that allows you to have layers and to blend those layers, that's where you'll be able to add that Orton look. So there's no shortage, like I said, of videos showing you how to add the Orton look using Photoshop on the desktop. But what I wanted to do, and I challenged myself when I was at the airport, was can I get that same look just using my iPhone? So I figured it out. It's really easy. And fortunately, because Adobe has Photoshop for Android and for iOS, all the Android users out there, you can follow along. It should be the exact same process. I don't have an Android device, so I can't guarantee it, but it should work just the same. So what I want to do is jump over. I'm going to show you my iPhone and we're going to walk through this process. All right, so I've got my iPhone here, and for the purposes of this video, you really only need two apps. Well, you really only need one app, which is Photoshop Express. Again, it's available for iOS and Android, but I also use Lightroom. That's where I'm going to show you how I export the photo, and then we're going to start using Photoshop Express to combine some layers. So first thing we'll do is let's launch Lightroom, and this is the photo that I want to work with. So if I press and hold it, that's the original unedited photo, and then this is the edited photo. I did everything in Lightroom. In fact, I'm pretty sure I edited on the mobile device. And just to show you some of that EXIF information, this is a Sony a7R Mark III with the 16 to 35 millimeter f2.8 lens. You can see the resolution, and it's about an 86 megabyte file. So this is the full resolution raw file, but we're going to be working with a JPEG for the purposes of this video. So we have the photo, it's already edited. We need to export it out of Lightroom so that we can work on it in Photoshop. So to do that, we'll press on the share button here. And there's one thing that I recommend that you do before you export. So we're going to be using this export to camera roll feature, but before we do that, to the right of that, there's a little settings icon. Let's tap on that, and the setting that I want you to make sure that you pay attention to is the dimension. So I think by default, it might be small, or you might even have a custom resolution. But in my case, I just want to work with the full resolution JPEG. So largest available dimensions is what I'm going to select. I don't really have anything else. I include the metadata for the camera, but I don't do location info when I export. All right, so with that, let's tap the check mark, and then let's tap on export to camera roll. And you'll see this confirmation that the photo was successfully exported. Now let's go home, and we're now ready to add that Orton look using the Photoshop Express app. So we'll tap to launch that. And the first thing we need to do is we need to create another version of the image that has a blur effect applied to it. So the basics, the super high level of the Orton look is that you take your original photo, you duplicate the layer, you add a blur, typically a Gaussian blur, and then you'll use a blending mode between those two layers to add that look. And the combination of the opacity of that blur layer plus the type of blending mode will allow you to refine how that Orton look looks on your photo. So again, the first thing we need to do in Photoshop is we need to create a version of this photo that has a blur. So we'll tap on the photo that we just exported, and we're going to go to the adjustments tool here. We'll scroll over to blur. And by default, when you go to blur, there is a radial filter. So the blur is kind of applying outside of that circle, but we want that blur applying to the whole photo. So we'll just tap on full. Now the blur will be added to the whole photo, and we're going to use this slider, and we're going to crank this up to about 85%. And that's all we're going to do here. So again, all we're doing in this first step is using Photoshop Express to add a blur to the photo. Now we need to create a new file because there is no layering in this particular part of the workflow. So we're going to go to this share button, and we're going to click to save to camera roll. Now we have two photos. We've got the original and we've got the blur layer. So now we're ready to composite those two files together, the original and the blur. We're going to tap on the mix button here. And the first thing we're going to do is click on the original photo, which is right here. Now on the bottom right of the photo, you'll see there's a little thumbnail for your layer. We're going to click on the plus button right below it. And then we're going to tap on the blur layer. And so now you can see we have two different layers here. We've got the original and the blur on top. Now it's time to blend. And so we're going to tap on blend over here. And there are two blend modes that are most common when it comes to using the Orton effect or the Orton look. The first one is multiply. So if we tap on multiply, this is one of the pitfalls. This is where a lot of photographers stumble when they first start using Orton, and that's they add, say, the multiply blend mode, and they just leave it as is. And I cannot tell you how important it is that you first make sure that the multiply blend mode is the correct one, and two, that you have your opacity in check. So this slider over here at the bottom, that's your opacity slider. So the first thing you'll want to do is bring that to the left, and then like any good slider, you'll want to slowly build it. And now watch, like as you build it, do you see how it's getting like that really rich, dreamy color, especially in the mountain in the background? It just looks great. And so for now, that could be good, but I know that there's another blend mode that I often like and prefer, and that's the overlay blend mode. So I'm going to swipe over and tap on overlay, and you can see that it made it just a little bit brighter. And if we go all the way to the right, you can see again, it's just way too strong. So we'll start at 0 and we'll slowly bring it up right around maybe just a little less than halfway, somewhere right around there. And that's looking great to me. I mean, it looks wonderful. And so we're essentially done. There are other things you can do. You know, in this app or in any other app, you can add different overlays or textures. But in this case here, I just wanted to add that Orton look to the photo to give it a little bit more of that rich, contrasty punch. So now that we have this good to go, we need to save it as a third file. So the first file was the original photo. The second one is the photo with the blur filter applied. And this third one here, if we go to share, and again, go to camera roll, that is now our composite photo with the Orton effect applied to it. So let's swipe home here. And I'm going to go to the Photos app because I have an album here so I can show you those three files, which are, you can see right here. Here's the original. And then if we swipe over, that's the layer with the blur. And then that is the Orton effect composited. So let's tap on the original. That's the original. And that's the photo with the Orton effect applied to it. So you can see just that really nice, rich look that's added to the photo. It's just, like I said, it's one of those things that you can instantly tell, or at least I can when I see a photo, whether it has the Orton effect applied to it. And it's very easy Like most accent spices that you add to food, it's very easy to overdo it. You want to be very deliberate with it. You want to add that Orton blend very, very slowly and stop at a point where you think, okay, this looks really good. If you go too far, it'll actually work to the detriment of the photo. You can actually make it look worse. So again, just a little bit goes a long way. Now I'm gonna go ahead, let's just do one more really quickly. I'm gonna kind of blow through this really quickly so you can see it in action again. Let me go ahead and launch Photoshop Express. And I've got this photo here of trees in Colorado during the fall colors. And again, first thing we need to do is add a blur layer. So we'll go to the adjustments. We'll swipe over to blur and make sure we're on full. Let's add that blur. So in this case here, I'll go about 75%, and we need to save that as a new image file. Now we'll go back here and let's go to mix. We'll add that first layer, the original photo layer. We'll click on plus and then add that blur layer that we just created. And we're going to go to blend. Let's see what multiply looks like. And so this, okay, this is another perfect example of where it just has gone too far. You really need to make sure that you select the right blend mode and the opacity. So we're going to bring that to 0 and kind of go over here. Now multiply again, it darkens typically. And so it doesn't work well here. It looks a bit too grungy. So let's go over to overlay. And you can see how that adds a nice little glow to the photo. I'm going to stop right around there. Again, a little less than halfway is a happy point for me. Let's go ahead and save that again to the camera roll. Then let's go home and let's swipe over, go to the Photos app, and we can see here. So this is the original photo, and then this is the photo with the Orton effect applied. You might not be able to see it as well on the recording, but I can tell you that here again, the original, it adds this really nice pop, this kind of almost like a rich saturation boost. It's not just boosting the color, but it's adding this richness to it. And again, that's kind of this signature look with the Orton effect. It's why a lot of people add it to their photos, is because when done right, it just adds that little bit of pop that makes the photo look that much more amazing. So you see, it's super easy to add the Orton effect using your mobile device, whether it's an Android device or an iOS device. If you've got Photoshop Express, you're ready to rock. So let me know in the comments below if you can see yourselves using the Orton effect specifically with your mobile device. I'm very interested in that. And let me know also if you'd like to see more videos that tackle mobile photo editing workflows. I love it, but I don't know if it's something that you guys are interested in, so let me know. And to continue your video watching journey, speaking of the Orton effect, if you want to see how to do that using Photoshop in your desktop, just click on this video here to check that out. All right, everyone, I'll see you in the next video.